Hello and welcome to Todd Miller TV, your resource for what's current in the Las Vegas real estate market. And I'm joined here with Oana, who happens to be, among other things, a property manager. So you manage properties.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so yesterday we talked about investments, and I showed, if you watched the video, I talked about a return on investment for having a rental property. Well, the number one thing I hear, and you probably hear this too, from people who are tentative investors is, I don't want to deal with a tenant. That's the only reason I don't buy rental houses, because the return makes sense. If you just look at it from a financial perspective, the return is awesome. So the big thing that I hear is, I don't want to work with, I don't want to deal with tenants, they're a pain in the butt. So tell me how property management plays a role in investors not having to deal with the tenant.
You know, property management is great because you are an investor. So that means that the property manager takes care of everything from taking care of repairs to finding a tenant, collecting rents, sending you the rent money, taking care of the accounting, the reporting, all of that. So your job at that point is to collect what we call mailbox money. And at the end of the year, you hand in all your statements to your accountant, and your accountant does your taxes, and you're done. You've collected money all year long, and your money has been put to work. That's the beauty of having an investment property, is that you have the opportunity to put your money to work and get a return on investment. The other thing is that when you own rental property, not only are you collecting money on a monthly basis in rent, but hopefully your property appreciates so that at some point you are selling the property and realizing a gain as well.
Okay, so what about finding the tenant? Is that something you would do as a property manager?
Absolutely. What we do is we go ahead and take a property from the minute that you close escrow on it, and we go ahead and clean it up. If we need to, we'll paint it, put carpet, whatever it needs. We'll do the repairs. We'll find a tenant. We'll negotiate a lease. And then go ahead and send you the lease to execute. That means to go ahead and sign the lease, and then you send the lease back. We've got a tenant. We collect the rent. We mail you the rent along with a statement. If you know, one of our favorite things, of course, here in Las Vegas is, you know, if the air conditioner goes out in the middle of July when it's hot out, you don't get the phone call in the middle of the night. We do. We go ahead and take care of the repairs. And the tenant's happy, you have a happy tenant, you collect rent. You also did not have to be troubled with fixing the air conditioner on a hot July day.
Okay, what does all this cost? Because that's the biggest thing I get is, oh, it's really super expensive.
You know, property management works in several different ways. Some property managers charge an upfront fee as well as a monthly fee. Other property managers just charge a monthly fee. So it depends on what services they offer. It depends on what their business model is. For the most part, you can count on a property manager charging 10% of the gross rent. And sometimes there's a setup fee. And that setup fee is basically because when a property manager takes over a property, they've got to inspect the property, do whatever repairs that there are to be done in order to get the property rented and that sort of thing. One of the other things that a property manager will do for you is they will go ahead and keep the security deposit in a trust account for the tenant. So that means that you don't have to worry about, oh gee, you know, if that tenant moves out, I've already spent the security deposit, how do I give them the money back? That money is kept with the property manager in a trust account. So when that tenant moves out, there is an inspection done, and then whatever portion of the security deposit needs to be refunded to the tenant, that's taken care of by the property manager. The other thing a property manager will do is we generally collect a deposit from the homeowner, because we cannot spend money out of our pocket to repair your property, and emergencies happen. So we generally have an emergency fund that usually comes out of the first month's rent, so you don't actually have to come up with that money, but we just keep a portion of the first month's rent as that deposit in order to make emergency repairs. And again, I mean, we would not go ahead and replace an air conditioner without your permission. We would get 1 or 2 bids for you, and we'd let you choose who you want to do the work, and then we would go ahead and oversee the work and make sure the work is done properly. You do still have a lot of control as far as your property, so it's not like you absolutely have no control of your property. You do. But you also have somebody on the ground who knows what's going on, who has reliable tradespeople to do the work, That's one of the biggest things is, even if you're local, sometimes you just don't know, well, who do I contact to put in a hot water heater, Christmas Eve, because it just went out. It's things like that. Those are things that most people don't realize, but there is value in a property manager just because of the resources that they have as far as tradespeople. One of the other things is that, like I said, we do get multiple bids. We do have tradespeople that are reliable and that are going to stand behind that work. So even though you may have a buddy who can do the work, you may get in a situation where your buddy is not a licensed contractor,
right,
and you run into other issues. And remember, when you're dealing with a tenant, there are laws that protect tenants. And those laws have to be abided by. So even if you want to manage your own property, you still have to be aware of those laws, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. So one of the things that having a property manager helps you with is stay compliant with the laws.
Okay, so what are the resources? So let's say that a property, an owner and a landlord get in a dispute. They're likely to have to go to a court to get it resolved, right? Because they're using a property manager who's a realtor, what other free or really low-cost resource do they have to settle this dispute without now spending money in court?
Because they're using a realtor, they can also access the mediation that the Association of Realtors has, and that's a lot lower cost. So that works really well. But generally speaking, when you're dealing with a property manager, things tend to be a little more cut and dry, and everything is in writing because we're well trained to put everything in writing. So it tends to be very very smooth from that perspective. Of course, you always have the option of taking it to small claims court and that sort of thing, but it generally doesn't go that far. We generally can mediate things, and things get settled really well.
Okay, so basically it costs them 10%.
Right.
They just get checks every month. They don't have to deal with repairs, with the tenant calling, with finding a tenant. They just basically get money and they're good.
Absolutely. And property management is absolutely marvelous, particularly if you're out of the area. Las Vegas is a great place to invest and to own rental property. Well, if you don't live in the area, you may think, well, I'll just come to town, I'll get it rented, and then I'll leave, and they can just mail me the check. Well, there are responsibilities that you have as a landlord to take care of this property and to inspect this property periodically. And those responsibilities are very difficult to meet if you're out of the area, if you don't have somebody on the ground taking care of the property. One of the things that we do is we go on a quarterly basis and we inspect the property with the tenant in there, because we can't always count on the tenant making sure that they've got batteries in the smoke detectors and things like that, which seems very small, but at the same time, it protects your property. You've got an investment to protect.
Good. One last thing, keep in mind is depending on where you have your rental property is, your local, state, municipality, whatever, may have a rule or law against how far you have to physically be from the property management. So, like some places have a 50-mile rule. If you live more than 50 miles away, you can't manage the property yourself. You have to have someone within 50 miles. So if you're out of state managing a property in another place and this person goes to court and you show up in court and the judge says, well, you live so-and-so, how do you manage the property? You may find yourself in other hot waters. So you want to make sure you check with an attorney, you find out what the rules are, and if if you've got to use a property manager, you find a good one. Oana, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's our episode for today, and thanks for tuning in.